get into it. All right. Hi, y'all. I am here this morning with Georgia Kissa, and she is from Greece originally, but she is getting her PhD at the University of Newcastle. She's studying architecture and urban planning. I met her earlier this year through a different project, and she has agreed to talk to me today about her experience this year. So thanks, Georgia.
Thank you for inviting me. It's such an interesting project, and it's part of our history now. I think that I don't know. I feel that it's happening. We don't know what's really happening, but we're experiencing in different ways. Everyone is doing whatever can do, and really nice meeting you, and thank you for helping me with my project, with my research.
It's a bit of a I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of thing, but no, it's lovely, and you're I love your attitude. You're every time I've interacted with you, I get a bit of a breath of fresh air, Georgia. So it's always lovely to chat with you when I see you. Give us a little bit, before we talk about the pandemic in 2020 specifically, just tell me a little bit about what brought you from Greece to Australia, why you're studying what you are, just briefly, not too long.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Greece, as you said. I was born there. I grew up there. I studied there. I studied architecture and engineering. So after finishing my degree, which is kind of 5 years degree, which is like a equivalent to bachelor and master's degree, I was working there as an architect. Things are really tough in Greece. With the financial crisis that it's been still around, and so it's very difficult to get jobs, and it's very difficult to develop and evolve personally and professionally, of course. I had a car accident, and I had to stay at home, and I was feeling very, very, under pressure about things. Like I wasn't able to do things or to express myself. I hit my leg, so I wasn't able to move. I was a little bit less mobile. So at that moment, I was thinking, okay, I have to change something. I don't like this life. As I told you, I don't have many opportunities to evolve and do stuff that I would like. So I will start creating, thinking, reading, and about the built environment, about architecture, about how we as architects and designers can impact the way we live, and our social environment as well. So I was writing down a few things, and they came up to be a research proposal. So I started to, of course, I went back to work. I was working at a very good studio, architectural studio in Greece, and we were doing projects all around Greece and Europe, and it was nice, but you didn't have much time for yourself. And also I wanted really to have this kind of academian experience, let's say, or to search, please correct my English, because I know that they're not perfect.
You're fine.
So I was applying. I got a scholarship from University of Newcastle. I've never been so far away from my family and my friends in my life. I've never traveled further than Europe, and pretty much in Europe everything is very close. Like you take a flight, and within 2 or 3 hours you're at the other edge of Europe. But I ended up being at the end of the world, as we say. Different hemisphere, different people, different weather. I arrived a week or two before Christmas. I came here and I was completely by myself. It was a bit hard, but I had to come before Christmas because university told me that I had to enroll before they shut down.
And when was this? Was this like 2018, 2019, or?
It was 2017.
Oh, 2017. Okay. Cool.
So in about 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, I'll be here for 3 years.
Wow. And you now have a baby and a partner.
So yes, so that was, sometimes, maybe you have to change everything in your life to start getting opportunities. I don't know. I know that people really say these things, but it happened to me.
Right.
Sometimes I feel it's like a fairy tale. So I came here and I told you I've never done research before, and I was struggling being by myself in a different country, different environment. Also, I was living in Newcastle when
Mm-hmm.
I came there, and I know I'm not the right person to talk about this because of my accent and my English. I know that they're awful, but
Oh
I
my
visited
gosh.
Newcastle, and people have this kind of different accent, the Australian one, and I couldn't really understand what they were talking. So, oh my God, what I'm doing here? So anyway, I started meeting people afterwards. I found a nice place to stay. I was living in Cooks Hill, no, on the hill, and then in Cooks Hill. So Newcastle is a beautiful city. I met few friends, and I met a couple that the girl is from Greece and the boy is from Italy. So they invited me to their place for lunch because they had a friend from Sydney, an Italian friend, visiting them.
Ah.
Yes. So that's how I met my partner.
Great, great. So it sounds as though you didn't have a bad life. Which part of Greece were you living in, by the way?
Yes, so I was born and lived in Thessaloniki. This is the northern part of
Okay.
Greece,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the second biggest city after Athens. Like we have a population of 1 million.
Okay. So you were working in architecture there, but you decided I'm gonna go back to school, study something different, go become a bit of an academic, and then you got a partner and a family. So
Yeah, it was a funny coincidence because with this guy, we started chatting. We didn't want to, kind of have a relationship or anything. So I would start commuting, not commuting, but visiting him in Sydney because I said, oh, there is this exhibition. Can I stay at your place? Because things here are very expensive and having a scholarship doesn't give you much flexibility. So he said, yeah, okay. So I was sleeping on his couch. Like
right.
we didn't,
Yeah.
yeah, to be honest, like, and yeah, anyway, and then he left. He visited his friends and
Mhm.
family in Europe, and while he was there, he was kind of missing me, so he was texting me, and then when he came back, we became a couple. We started dating.
Oh, okay. I
So
love it
he's
that he's Italian and it's like you met in Australia. Like what are the odds that you find?
yeah, yeah. So he's been living in Australia for 13, 14 years now.
Okay,
So
right.
he came to do his PhD, and he did a
Mm-hmm.
postdoc, and then he was getting grants and funds and whatever. But then he's now working for the government.
Mm-hmm.
He's a funny guy. I think
Mm.
what attracted me to him was his humor, his sense of humor. Probably we have similarities as Mediterranean cultures and
Yeah,
backgrounds.
yeah. Well,
We
I
yeah
might, sorry, Georgia. I might kind of use that as a kind of platform because you're both from the Mediterranean. You've both now been here in Newcastle. You for 3 years, him for a lot longer. Tell me how your life changed in 2020, both here in Newcastle and also with your family back in Greece. Tell me about what happened this year.
Yeah, sure. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not it's good that you cut me because I can talk about this for transport.
That's okay.
So now we're living in Sydney because he's working here,
Hmm.
and I'm able to study from Sydney because we have a Sydney campus.
Okay. So you're in Sydney
So
right now.
yes, yes, we are.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, cool, cool.
Well,
Hmm.
that's what virtual
Yeah, exactly.
Zoom does to you.
You could
You
be
don't even
anywhere.
know where people
Yeah.
are. Um, so yeah, 2020, actually my mother was here when this thing happened. She was able to visit us, and she left in last January.
Hmm.
uh, she was Things were okay, we had few cases, and then we were trying to find masks, and everything was like sold out because we had also the bushfires last year.
Yes.
So we didn't have sanitizers and masks available. Anyway, we said goodbye to my mom. It was around February when my daughter Sophia, she was 8 months old. She started childcare because I was working. And then, yeah, it was out of a sudden, we started having cases. We were, um, especially the first place that was hit after China, I think it was Italy. And I was like of course, I had to take my daughter from childcare because things were okay here, but I belong to vulnerable people, to high risk, because my immunity is very low.
Okay.
So pretty much the doctors were telling me that if your daughter brings something to you from childcare, then you will end up being very, very sick,
Right.
and you might need to be hospitalized, because they knew from the beginning that kids can get sick, but not, maybe they're asymptomatic. They didn't know, and actually, yeah, I think at the beginning or even now, it's research is still evolving and ongoing
Yes.
about things. We don't really know what's happening. So
Yeah.
anyway, it was pretty kind of frightening, and my partner started working from home, so we had to buy a desk and a monitor and everything.
Yeah.
And I know that things in Newcastle weren't that tough or I don't know, awkward, but here in Sydney, we couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
Like, I have photos because I was chatting with my family and with my friends, and I was sending them the photos of the supermarkets that they were empty, like empty. Not
Mm.
only with not only of toilet paper, of
Yeah.
pasta or tomato
Yeah.
sauce, but we couldn't find anything. I couldn't find formula for my daughter, or
Mm.
the cream or stuff from childcare. Even though she wasn't going there, they were sending us emails. Oh, we have to reschedule the daily menu because we can't find any ingredients and supplies. So it was like, even, I told you, people will start working from home. So we couldn't find a desk, a monitor. We had to buy and wait for, I don't know, 5 weeks. So we adjust to, I don't know, we were working from the dining table or from the kitchen. And also having the little one here, she was crying. She wanted
Yeah.
to eat. I had to stop working pretty much.
Mm.
I couldn't collect data because the museum or the libraries or everything were closed, and also we weren't able to travel more than 5 kilometers away.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Things in Europe, like especially in Italy, where it was a madness.
Yeah.
Like, we were monitoring the numbers. We couldn't even sleep. We have this
Yeah.
time difference, so we were chatting with our friends, with our families. Unfortunately, one of our very good friends lost his dad at the first wave.
Oh.
And he's living in Australia, so he couldn't even visit his family. He
Oh.
visited them in September.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so it was, we have families, we have friends, we have,
Mm.
sisters, brothers, siblings, and especially our parents are over 65,
Yeah.
70s, so they're vulnerable as well. It was unknown. It was scary,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Especially, I'm sure, because you're Italy. If he's from Italy, they were the first ones after China that everyone was talking about. So it must have been like
it was.
very intense.
I think that we were sleeping and waking up with our mobile phones, checking the
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that pretty much everyone was doing the same thing, watching the news, watching all these videos that every single place in Europe was, they were in lockdown. All the monuments, everything were like empty.
Yeah.
It was a kind of devastating, anyway, way to experience it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
And so much unknown, I think. So you've got, like, maybe Australia, we don't know what's happening, but you've got, I didn't know, you have a low immunity, you've got to look after yourself. And then also you're just seeing headlines about, all kinds of, and also when your friends are personally affected by it. So that's one of my questions. Have you known, so you have clearly known people who have had it and have
yeah,
even passed away
and
from
also
it.
now, because we were trying to schedule this meeting, but now my in-laws got it.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
So yeah, and apparently the second wave, of course, is way more stronger than the first one. But people were trying to, keep on their life, and I
Yeah.
think that all the countries are trying to save their economy as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have family in Italy and in France, because one of my brother-in-law lives in France with his 2 kids and his wife. So they got it. Fortunately, they got a kind of not so aggressive strain of the
Uh-huh.
virus.
Uh-huh.
So they had symptoms for a few days, but they didn't have high fever or respiratory issues.
Mm-hmm.
And my partner's parents. So my in-laws got it, both of them. So they were sick. Nobody was able to help them. And we saw something that was very, very hard. So his mother was completely disoriented. She was very, very weak. She wasn't able to speak. Of course, they weren't eating for days, and they lost the sense of smell and taste. And there was a doctor calling them every day just to check pretty much if they're alive and if they want any medication, because they were taking antibiotics to prevent from secondary infection, bacterial infection, vitamin D, which is, I don't know if you heard about it, but pretty much it's out there now that vitamin D helps you.
Yeah.
And most of us have vitamin D deficiency, especially now because we don't stay in the sun because because of
also bad for you. Yeah.
Especially now especially here in Australia, we're trying to prevent that. And some supplements because they weren't eating. After, I would say 4 weeks, they got 2 or 3 more tests, and now they're they are tested negative, which is good. But still, we don't really know what's going to happen because, as I told you, they were lucky. They got a strain that it wasn't so aggressive. But I don't know if it was their system that was able to recover, or it's so, I don't know, it has to be something like either you're lucky or not, because at the same time in Greece now, and especially in Thessaloniki, is the epicenter of the pandemic there. Because I told you it's the second biggest city, but our population is about 1 million. We have so many cases per day. Like Athens is 5 million, and we have double numbers of Athens. So hospitals are full. They're trying to send patients with helicopters or with airplanes using the Air Force to other places, to other cities. I have friends of mine who are doctors, and they're telling me that they go to the hospital and they work for 3 days in a row, 3 days and nights, of course. And then they end up staying in other places because they don't want to interfere with their families. And in case they infect them.
So that's interesting, because I was just reading that Greece is ranked very low in terms of number of cases. It's nothing like the UK or anything like that, but still, despite that.
You know what? It's because of the financial crisis and all of the difficulties that every single government had in Greece, and they are dealing with it now, is that our health system is very, very bad. It's very poor.
Right.
So the lacking of equipment, the lacking of doctors, of nurses, facilities. So if I don't know, a country has, let's say, 1,000 ICU units, in Greece we might have 100.
Really?
So there are people now, especially the numbers of dead people is increasing day by day, because they cannot take them anymore. And my dad lost 3 friends already within 3 weeks.
My God. So I'm so sorry to hear that. I don't think I realized. I remember when like the Euro crisis was happening, and that Greece was like definitely one of the hardest hit countries, but my knowledge around Greece and like where it's been since then has not been good. So do you reckon that maybe it's that maybe they're not even counting numbers as accurately as
the other thing? Yes, well said. So the other thing is that here in Australia we've been lucky because every single test was free. So when we started again going back to work, or around July, my daughter went back to childcare. Whenever she was sick, because she goes to childcare, we've been asked to do the test first and then to go to visit a doctor. So she and myself have done this test 5 times. Whereas in Greece, if you have symptoms and you want to get checked, you need to pay. And around March, this test costed like 150 euros. To make you understand how expensive it is, not only in Australian dollars, but the salary there, a medium salary is like 500 euros or 700 euros per month. So you cannot afford to pay for 150 euros just to get checked.
This is, see, because I tend to think, and this is my own bias, that Greece is a member of the European Union, right? The European Union is like the same place where you have Scandinavia, where you have
Yeah.
incredible healthcare and wages and stuff like that. But it sounds like Greece is not like that
No,
at all,
and
right?
I understand that
Mm.
from my partner, from the things that I read about Italy, they are struggling as well. I
Right.
think, especially in the south, the Italian south is like way more poorer than the north.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but now the government in Greece started to having this kind of mobile clinics or some kind of tents outside the hospitals, but they do a rapid test, which is
Uh-huh.
cheaper. And I think if you manage to go to the hospital, then it's free. But people are saying that please don't go to the hospitals because you might get it there. They have
Yeah.
so many cases at the hospitals, so pretty much you might get it there. The other thing is that recently they tried to engage with private clinics and hospitals in Greece, but they all denied
Okay.
because they
So
said we don't need to interfere with COVID patients. We have our own patients, and you can, if you want to do a surgery now, pretty much you have to do it privately.
so there's a public and private healthcare system in Greece.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting. And the private, it sounds like, is not as better than as much better than the public.
yeah.
Right. Right.
I remember
Interesting.
that I mentioned in the beginning that I had a car accident. It was 2015.
Uh-huh.
So it was December again. I think December is my month where I take all yeah, I change everything.
Yeah.
So it was, I went to the hospital and they were doctors that they had to stitch my trauma. So they had the bad kind of stitches. They didn't have gloves. They didn't have the vaccine, the tetanus vaccine that you do when you hit, because I was on a motorbike, so I got cut by metal.
Right.
Um, so then after that, my foot got infected. So I had to go to a private doctor. I had to do kind of an operation again. I have to take medication that I had to pay myself. Pretty much, if you don't have money, you don't survive,
Right. Right.
unfortunately. Like
Right.
you will
Yeah.
recover, but you might have
No, that's like, that sounds very unprofessional to me to have.
they don't have supplies. They don't
Right.
have supplies,
Right.
and
Right.
having all these waves now and then from with refugees, which is of course understandable because people are trying to they're fleeing their
Yeah.
countries because
Yeah.
they are in war.
Yeah.
But talking about the European Union, in a way, they are trying to maintain all the refugees in Greece, so they're
Okay.
giving some kind of financial help
Mm-hmm.
to the government in order to maintain and to retain all the refugees in Greece.
Right. Right. But it is a lot of people and limited
Millions.
resources. Millions of people,
Millions.
millions of refugees and limited resources. And I'm sure that everyone, doesn't matter what your status is as a citizen or not, is susceptible to the virus, which
Mhm.
makes things even more challenging.
Yeah,
So
but the thing
yeah.
is that if you have money, then you can
Yes.
have treatment pretty much.
Yes.
I think that this pandemic and
Mm,
this virus showed a little bit the difference
yes.
and
Yes.
how unfair this is.
Yeah.
Because okay, we are privileged to have internet. I have like a tile on my roof.
Yeah.
Things like
Australia alone,
that.
just being in Australia, like we are so, I'm from the US, and I mean, being in Australia is like we're so
I think
lucky. We're so
we are
lucky.
in heaven, but
Mm,
we have internet and we can communicate at least with our parents and our families,
yeah.
whereas other people don't even know what the virus is. They live in
Yeah.
slums. All the refugees that I'm talking about, they didn't realize what this thing was. So when the police was going there to tell them you should wear masks and everything, they were kind of fighting and protesting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So have there been protests in Greece? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of course it's the anti-COVID again.
Yeah. 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 Yep. Yep.
Kind of stream that
Mm-hmm.
people don't really believe that this virus exists,
Yeah.
or people believe that these whole measurements, they're very very strict, so nobody can really force you to stay indoors, and It's like it's not democracy. It's taking away parts of your freedom. Yeah, of course, of course. Of course, there are conspiracy theories about the vaccine, about being manipulated, about the kind of fear that it's been imposed in order to, again, manipulate and people. But we don't really know where the truth is.
Yeah. Well,
I think the only important thing is, to everyone to be safe and to have, your beloved ones or your friends safe.
But that's the hard thing. You don't know where the truth is. But also, you're saying that people in your family have been affected by it, and your parents have lost people that they love as well. So it's like, it's hard to know what's going on. But also, you want. I mean, it's clear your lives are being affected by it. I mean, undoubtedly. So I don't think I realized like the extent of everything happening in Greece at the moment. So.
I think that, to be honest, you don't realize this thing unless it happens to yourself.
Yeah, sure.
So when we first communicate with my in-laws and we saw them, like they were pale, they were very weak, and my mother-in-law wasn't able to talk.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what's going on? Like, and of course, we are like you and like every single person here in Australia, we cannot visit them, we cannot travel.
Yeah.
I think that the difficult part is trying to, find a balance between living in Australia where everything is fine and then trying not to,
I get it. It's like, and I feel like if you're from Australia and your family's in Australia, it's so easy to, in some ways, feel relief. And my parents, they say to me, they're happy that I'm here. They would rather me be here than back in the US. But at the same time, it's like this little thing in your brain that you can't turn off, because you know that it's not over. And especially if your parents or your in-laws have had it. And so that sounds so intense because you are like witnessing what's going on. You're still in communication, which is good, but you can't do anything. So that I'm so glad that they've come out of it okay, but I can't imagine how scary that was.
I really understand also that people, they don't want to be to stay in their houses. The good thing now is that is winter there, the good and bad thing, because the virus can spread out easily. But also if you stay indoors, then the weather is so bad that you don't really want to go out. But people are, the funny facts are that people are get bored or they're fighting with their couples or with their kids because, we have apartments there. The other difference with Australia and maybe the US is that Europe is mostly made of apartments. People
very urban
in apartments. So it's becoming difficult to stay in one place for so long, and I don't know how everyone is coping. I know that the rate of divorce has increased, or people drinking more, or things.
Yeah, well, and it's also that people didn't expect it to go so long, and I can understand the fatigue. Like if you thought but the problem is, I feel like if people had done it right in the first place, then you might not have it go on for so long. But it's so hard to, especially in Australia, like we've done things right, but also there's just not a huge population. There's more people in the state of New York than there is in all of Australia. So we are able to do things that other populated, like Europe is incredibly populated. So it's
also Australia is an island. So it's like New Zealand. It was easier to shut down the external borders. Even every different state here shut down their own borders.
Yeah.
So in Europe, you cannot do this. Everything is so interconnected.
Yeah.
You can drive your car and go to places.
Yeah.
You don't have to take a flight. So everything is related, is interconnected, and of course during summer people needed to have a break and take a break. And although I know that in Greece, for example, they were trying to recover, especially financially, because we are relying on tourism. It's similar in Italy. So they opened the borders, they were checking everyone at the airport, and that test was for free. So they were checking every person, every tourist, but then they had very few cases. But the major jump happened in October when we didn't have any tourists.
Yeah.
But it was the
Yeah.
weather, it was, yeah. And you
Yeah.
can't really control your borders when it's inland.
It's so, yeah. And I think even just trying to talk to people in the, like when I talk to people in the States about what Australia has done, it's almost like it's not even an option. I know that Joe Biden called Jacinda Ardern to talk about what she's done, but I can't even imagine forcing like you to shut down one state. They tried to close the borders in the state of Kentucky where my parents are. And that's
Mm.
like, even just that, there's just so many different ways to get across and the amount of like organization. And actually, I was going to ask you, Georgia, just because of your kind of background, not only in architecture, but your interest in history and urban planning, like, have you thought about that from a professional kind of aspect about how like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Look,
could you comment on that?
the previous, yes, thank you. And it's very interesting as a question, this one.
Yeah.
So the previous pandemic pretty much triggered the modern movement in architecture. So we were thinking about ventilation. So we were thinking about, and it was after world wars as well. So people didn't have money. It was similar, like a financial crisis and a pandemic. So
Is that the
every
Spanish
single,
flu and
yeah,
the, yeah,
yeah, and
okay.
also then, even in London they had I don't remember the disease, but plague. It was something
Yeah.
like that. So you need to maintain things clean, and you need to have ventilation. So bigger openings. When you have financial crisis, you need cheaper materials. After a war, you need, to structure things and to build better, but also faster, because people don't have a place to stay. So I think that after every single kind of event, architecture in a way responds to this, because people and places and environment, like, it's the same thing. You can't have the one without the other. So talking about this pandemic, people start going out and really engaging. We want to have open spaces. You can see the difference, as I told you, between Australia and Europe, because people here, they have houses, they have a backyard, and they don't really interact with others. Whereas in Europe, we have apartments, so you might meet someone in the lift, or you have to go out to exercise. You have a small balcony or something like that. Uh, Also, people now, and from other architects that I'm talking with, they are trying to make their places more adjustable and flexible, because they are thinking that we might have another pandemic soon,
Yeah.
another virus, or another disease, or even trying to adjust with the climate change and all these
Yeah.
extreme events, the storms, the bushfires. Like last year, we experienced a kind of lockdown in Australia, because we
Yeah.
had to stay indoors. We couldn't go outside. Everything was super hazy and smoky. So we had, just imagine if, yeah, last year they were telling me, so many people, that they had to change the window frames to make them more, to seal them, to make
Yeah.
them more,
Yeah.
and or they were buying purifiers, air
Mm-hmm.
purifiers, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, of course, every single disturbance has an effect in my profession,
Mm-hmm.
and in a way, it's not like, of course, like doctors, but we are trying to give a solution to make things a little bit better.
Yeah.
People are now in city council, or state kind of level. They're trying to create more public spaces,
Yeah.
parks, and they are urbanists and urban planners around the world are talking about, going back to local and creating this 15 or 20 minutes walking city, where you can have your amenities around you and you don't have to travel, which might help with climate change as well.
There was also there was a great idea in the New York Times. I don't think it was for New York, which is in the north, which is colder, but it was the idea of just what to do about schools, because they want people back in schools, but it's dangerous. They were introducing an idea which happened previously, and it was like make all schools outdoor, like outdoor
Yeah,
spaces. And I thought, well,
but it's
it's
pretty
hard
cool.
to do. Yeah, it's cold. I don't know if you could do it. It would have to be I don't know if you'd have heaters or how you would do it, but it's just, there's so many cause and effects that we don't think about, like,
Mhm.
and it was so interesting when I did visit Europe, and it's been years ago, but when I was in Italy, like seeing you know, how they had planned for the heat better than even Australia had, with like these huge window or open spaces with great ventilation and stuff like that. And I don't know, I don't know much about architecture, but it's interesting to think how this pandemic now might shape the way we live. And people are talking about people living less in cities because they're worried about being on top of one another. But I think cities are the way to go for the future. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, when this thing started, because my research and my PhD is about, placemaking and how disturbances like this and events might change the way we feel about a place, or might change the character.
Yeah.
So when this thing started, I was discussing with my supervisors, and I said, okay, should I, ask people about COVID as well? And they were saying, no, because we don't know what's going to happen. So it's a little bit, more sensitive as a topic, but it's really changing the way we live.
And in 2 years' time, probably you can ask that question, look at like how, and and that's what you're doing. I guess it might be worth mentioning. You're looking at how kind of traumatic and intense events have changed the way people have.
Yeah, but because every single place has a kind of, places to our experiences.
Mm.
We remember things, and that's how we remember places. And it's about feelings. Like if I close my eyes now, I might think how my mom is cooking and how the food smells and what kind of secret stories I might say with my sisters, or trying to do things. The places that I go, the bars with my friends I used to go. I think that it's all about experiences. And since these events and every single event really change the way we feel, then change, it's a different kind of moment in our history that might change. Like I told you, I had a car accident, and I turned out to become a PhD student.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of theories about order and chaos, and it is from the rubble that kind of things grow, right? So I mean, a car accident isn't the end of the world, but kind of it's amazing how we evolve when we go through adversity, I guess.
I think that the way we evolve and adapt is very, very fascinating. And although I understand that, technology and artificial intelligence and all these kind of robots or cars that they move by themselves and everything, I sometimes I feel I'm really frightened about all these things, because we miss out so many feelings and interactions that actually during this lockdown that we had here, people were really trying to find this kind of bond and connections with other people, not with equipment, not with technology. It was like people in Italy were going out on the balconies and they were singing to each other. Here they were putting the teddy bears. So when I was walking with the pram with my daughter, we were counting the teddy bears. So people were going out because we want to live in nature, not in a box with VR glasses, I think that I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit more romantic for some, but I feel that we can't afford to lose these kind of feelings.
No,
actually, sorry, just it was the good thing about this pandemic and about me here experiencing it in Australia is that I was able to join before the pandemic a mothers group. So we were all chatting and discussing where at the time when we were in lockdown, and we were sending things to each other, like, okay, some flowers, some diapers, or a bottle of wine. And also we were like, as new parents, we experienced our daughter start walking and doing these things, whereas when she might have been in childcare and I've been working in an office. So there's things like that.
And I mean, one of my interviews previously with it is a guy, he's in Newcastle, originally from Morocco. He's a neuroscientist, and he was talking about like the development of children. And perhaps one thing that we haven't thought about is having kids, young children at home with their parents during this time could be actually a positive. Like when kids are learning, maybe it's a little bit harder when they're like 8 or 9 and like not going to school. But in this like very crucial age of development, it's kind of an interesting idea that kids are actually being able to be with their parents a little bit more. And I agree. I think that I think we've all come to realize how nice actual physical connection is. And maybe we didn't realize how special it was before, kind of that actual physical presence that can't be imitated.
I really hope that we won't forget about these things.
Yeah, I agree, and I know because I've had so many Zoom calls, and in some ways I've adapted quite well, and it is so good to be able to do this with my parents back home. It's better. I would take this any day of the week over not having this, but it's still, it's you could never the conversations that you have in person with your family when you have a dinner with them or like sit down with them is so very different than organized, Zoom call.
Yeah. Well, and actually, I think that every side is trying to protect the others. So when you have something bad happening to you, you don't really say to them because you don't want them to feel, okay, I need to protect my kid now. I'm not there to help you.
Yeah.
And you don't want them to be worried. And they're doing the same thing to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, when it was when my daughter Sophia started childcare again in June, July, then of course, kids got sick, and that's how they boost their immunity.
Yeah.
So at one point she was getting sick and sick and sick, and we ended up being at the hospital because she ended up having pneumonia. And of course, I wasn't able to talk with my parents. I didn't want to tell them what's happening. But after 3 or 4 days, then I told them, oh my God, why you didn't tell us? And the same thing happened with my in-laws now. So they were sick for about 2 weeks, and they were texting, but not, chatting, video call. So then we said, what's happening? Because they are okay with technology, but we talk with them once a week. Yeah. Whereas I have 3 more sisters, and I speak with my mom and my sisters pretty much every day. Even if I'm not sleeping at night, there's always someone to chat. So yeah, it's like we are also, as you said, it's good that we have this kind of communication, but it's not going to be the same with the real one.
Yeah, because if you were in the house with them when they were sick, or if you saw that, just even seeing them, you would know something was going on, but you cannot always convey. Yeah.
And you can hide your feelings for about 10 minutes or half an hour, and then you might start crying and say, oh, I miss them so much. I mean, now people are telling me, when are you coming? When are you coming? I said, we can't come. We can't visit you. And it's like Christmas with our family is not Christmas. In reality, here is like vacation if we manage to have some few days off. But it's pretty much the same thing for everyone, I guess. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, that's the thing. My grandmother passed away really unexpectedly in October, and it was just like, and I had decided to start calling her when the pandemic hit. Actually, like I hadn't been in that close communication. It was when the pandemic hit. I decided to start calling her every Saturday, and now I'm so glad that I did that and I feel sad because I would have gone home immediately. But at the same time, it's like people in Victoria couldn't, if they have family in New South Wales, they're in the exact same situation that we're in, so it's like, it's such and I guess that's the one relief is that like, we are not in this alone. Like everyone is feeling that strain of not being able to have that connection.
So right, I told you about the mothers group that I joined, and there are people that they have their families in Queensland or in Victoria, and they are so happy that they might see them now during Christmas, because similar to me, they saw them in March last time.
Yeah. Distance becomes a funny thing, doesn't it?
I was talking with a professor the other day during my data collection and interviews, and actually he told me something that I don't know whether it's right or wrong, and I'm not going to judge it, I'm not going to criticize it, but he told me that it's a little bit unfair because they, especially in Victoria, I think they've been very, very strict. They shut down everything, and people were staying indoors for more than 100 days. And they were expecting cases to drop to 0 to open everything again, which is like, okay, a bit strict, I think.
It blows my parents' mind when I told them that Adelaide or that South Australia had like 20 cases and that they were shutting down because in their county in Kentucky, they have like 50 new cases a day. And I'm like, 20 cases in the entire state and they shut everything down. It is. It'll be interesting to look back at this and look at how different people did because, I mean, yes, it is effective, but also humans aren't meant to live like that for long periods of time. So, yeah,
it's I don't know. And yesterday I was listening to the radio that I think the New South Wales government will made compulsory to use face masks in public transport from now on. So they might fine you.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if they're gonna go, gonna go forward with it, but
in New South Wales. Right. Well, and we have been doing so well, and that's interesting. Yeah, which is interesting because, and in the U.S. I mean, people are just so averse to it, and they've got cases everywhere. Like, I don't think you could, I think we've been a very compliant country. Australia has, like, people joke about the rebellious, like, convict history, but actually, I think that people, there's been a bit of protesting, but there's certainly been a lot more in other parts of the world where there's a lot that, my brother went to Colombia 2 weeks ago. He got on a plane and like he was able to leave the US and go to Colombia and come back. And it's interesting to hear about the different ways that people have managed. But you have brought so many interesting points to the table today, Georgia. So I really appreciate, and I'm so sorry, I didn't realize how specifically and directly you've been affected.
I think that every single one has been affected. In a way.
Yeah.
I hope nobody else will have to, because winter just started there. I hope that things will evolve good for everyone. Yeah, because thinking of our families are exposed because they cannot work from home. They have businesses and they go out. So hopefully things will progress well. Hopefully these 3 vaccines will make a difference. I don't know if we are gonna end up being all zombies with 3 legs or I don't know 4 eyes, because nobody's talking about the side effects.
Yeah, I haven't even heard about the side effects. I've only known that finally they've got something that's hopefully effective. But yes,
I hope that Will Smith, as he's the legend, might come up with a vaccine.
That's an interesting point as well. I'm going to talk about that, I think, on the radio this Saturday, the vaccine, and will you take it? I think I don't necessarily want to be the first person in line, but if it means that I can go home, I think I would just do it. It's just like, if that's what it takes, then I'll bite the bullet.
I think that there are certain countries, I don't know if it's right, if it's true or not, but I heard that in Germany they might make it, you have to you have to be vaccinated in order to enter the country or to live and be able to come back. So again, this is not so fair.
I know. And also there's that. And then there's also like some countries that can't even afford the vaccine at all. And then the wealthy countries will have it. So there's so many, it's like we've all been talking about how to deal with it this whole time. And now we've got a whole new situation on vaccine and how to distribute it, because if you can't, I am curious to see what new conversations are going to come as it evolves. But it's exciting to at least be talking about something other than staying home all the time. So it's good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Right.
I won't take any more of your time, Georgia. Thank you so much for chatting with me. It has been so interesting to learn about Greece and Italy, and also you and what you've been doing and your opinion, your professional opinion. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Good luck to the rest of this interesting project. I'm looking forward to see the other videos.
Thanks, Georgia.